I'm going to Europe. You're in charge of the kid. No discussion. That was her text. For 30 days I raised our daughter completely alone. And when she finally stepped back into our home, she had no idea what that month of abandonment was about to cost her. My name is Sebastian. I'm 46 and I met Valentina when we were in very different seasons of life. We crossed paths 8 years ago in a restaurant in a busy neighborhood. She was 27 working at an office downtown, laughing with a group of friends like the world was light and easy. I was 38, exhausted, and I just landed a supervisor position at the plant. It was a Friday. I was drained, so I went out to eat with a couple coworkers after a long week. We started seeing each other with no big drama. The relationship moved forward. 2 years later we got married at the courthouse. No party, no big ceremony. She wanted to save for a house. I didn't really care about the format as long as we were good. I thought we were solid. I believed we were a team. When she got pregnant, reality hit me hard. I was 45, about to be a father for the first time. It felt like starting a race when you're already exhausted. Valentina, on the other hand, seemed excited. She talked about nursery colors, baby names, details I didn't even know mattered, until they did. Martina was born and something changed. At first I couldn't put my finger on it. Valentina went back to work after 3 months and started spending more and more time with her college friends. She said she needed to reconnect with herself, that she felt like she'd lost who she was, like she couldn't breathe. I blamed it on normal motherhood stress, on the adjustment after such a huge change. I was wrong. It wasn't adjustment. It was an exit plan. I understood everything one February morning in the middle of winter. I was at the plant with my hands covered in oil, trying to replace a busted hydraulic line. Cold air cut through everything and my phone vibrated in my pocket. I almost ignored it. I answered on autopilot. "Sebastian, I'm at the airport," Valentina said. That dry, decisive tone, the same one she used when she'd already made up her mind and my opinion didn't matter. I pulled the phone away and stared at the screen like something wasn't adding up. "What airport?" "The one in the city. My flight leaves in 40 minutes. I stood there frozen, wrench in my hand, oil dripping onto the floor. It took me a few seconds to react. "And Martina?" "At daycare. You need to pick her up before 6. Everything clicked at once. Late nights, dinners that dragged into the early morning, the growing distance. This wasn't a trip. It was a runaway. "How long?" I asked. 5 weeks, maybe a little more. I looked at the clock. 3 hours until daycare closed. My shift ended at 5. "This is over," I said calm. "Don't come back expecting us to still be married. I'm filing for divorce." She started to say something but I hung up. I just stood there staring at my phone while the oil kept dripping. Mauricio, one of my coworkers, walked up. "Everything okay?" "My wife just got on a plane to Europe," I said. "She left our daughter at daycare." His face changed instantly. "How long?" 5 weeks. "And she's not coming back home." Mauricio glanced at the broken machine, then at his watch. "Go. We'll cover you." I didn't waste another second. I got to daycare at 5:47. The caregiver was holding Martina. She was the last child there. "Just in time, sir," she said, tired but kind. I picked Martina up and she clung to my coat with sticky little hands. "My wife left," I said. "She won't be back soon." The caregiver gave me a look that didn't need explanations. "I'm sorry." "No need," I said honestly. I told her there might be some complicated days while I figured things out. She assured me they'd work with me. In the parking lot, before I started the car, my phone buzzed. A photo. Valentina at the airport holding a coffee, nails perfect, with a caption, "Finally free." I took a screenshot. That's how my evidence folder started. At home the apartment felt different, quieter, cleaner. I put Martina in her playpen and forced my brain to think clearly. Lawyer. Custody. Bank accounts. I wasn't going to make the mistakes I'd seen other men make. Another photo came in, Valentina with 3 friends, all holding their boarding passes like they'd won the lottery. I looked at my daughter. She was chewing on a stuffed toy and watching me with complete trust. That night I made a few decisions. First, I muted Valentina's notifications. I didn't block her. I needed to keep a record of everything. Second, I messaged someone new, Camila, her cousin. The uncomfortable one. The relative who always said what nobody wanted to hear. I sent a short, direct text before I could talk myself out of it. 3 minutes later my phone rang. "Sebastian? This is Camila. What do you mean she left?" I told her everything, Valentina's call, the airport, the divorce. Camila went quiet for a few seconds. Thank God you're not letting her walk all over you, she said finally. Where are you? At home, trying to figure out what Martina can eat. Don't move, she said. I'm coming. 20 minutes later she knocked on my door. Camila looked exactly how I remembered her. Medical scrubs, the exhaustion of a long shift. The moment she saw Martina, her face softened completely. She's gotten so big, she said, lifting her naturally. Hi, baby. Martina stared at her, then smiled. Camila looked at me. Kids always know who actually shows up. She set Martina down and scanned my apartment in silence. Okay, she said. First things first. When did Martina eat last? At daycare. She had lunch, I said, trying to remember. Camila narrowed her eyes. That was like 6 hours ago, wasn't it? I nodded, unsure. Yeah. I was going to feed her now. Camila raised a hand. Stop. I'm not judging you, she said quickly. You got blindsided. That's obvious. But if we don't feed her and build a clear routine, in 2 days you'll be completely wrecked. She opened the fridge, frowned, opened kitchen cabinets. Her expression got worse. You have nothing, she said flatly. There are baby food jars in here that look like museum artifacts. She pulled out her phone without waiting for my response. I'm ordering groceries. You'll pay me back over time with patience. Then she looked me dead in the eye. For the next 2 hours, I'm basically your instructor. And she was right. Camila taught me things I should have already known, like how to feed a toddler properly. What foods actually work and which ones just cause more problems. How to do bath time without turning the bathroom into a swimming pool. How to get Martina to sleep without a 3-hour war. She wrote everything down on a sticky note and slapped it on the fridge where I couldn't miss it. Food. But, books. Don't improvise. Don't change it, she warned. Don't reinvent anything. Trust the process. At 9:30 p.m., Martina was finally asleep. I sat on the couch feeling like I'd run a marathon with zero training. Camila handed me a bottle of water. Hydrate, she said. You're going to need it. Thank you. I'm coming twice a week, she continued. Tuesdays and Thursdays after my shift. But you have to learn to handle this on your own too. I'm not your permanent plan. I know. Good. Because I'm not doing it for you, she said, grabbing her bag. I'm doing it for Martina. And honestly, I'm glad you're finally seeing Valentina for who she really is. Yeah, I said. I took too long. Camila stopped at the door. You're really going to start the legal process? I have an attorney consult this Friday. Camila smiled, satisfied. Perfect. Don't let her manipulate you when she comes back. Not happening. She left. I locked the door and stood in the middle of the apartment, wrapped in a strange kind of silence. For the first time all day I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Control. The first 2 weeks passed like a fog. Martina woke up every night, sometimes twice, sometimes 4 times. I learned how to function on 4 hours of sleep, how to cook eggs with one hand, how to change a diaper in under a minute. The routine became almost military. 6 a.m. wake up. 7 o'clock fed and dressed. 7:30 daycare. Work until 5 o'clock. Pick her up. Dinner. But a fight to get her to sleep. Collapse at 10 o'clock. Repeat. But I wasn't just surviving. I was documenting everything. After the first late pickup, one of the daycare workers looked at me in a particular way, not judgment, more like understanding. Are you doing all this alone for now? She asked. For now, I said, though the alone part looks like it might last. She gave me a small smile. Good for you. That night I bought a cheap spiral notebook from the corner store and started writing down absolutely everything. Dates, times, expenses, messages, silences. February 7th. Martina woke up 4 times. Fever 101.1 degrees Fahrenheit. Gave infant Tylenol. Valentina sent 3 photos of a sunset in Santorini. Didn't reply when I told her Martina was sick. February 11th. Ear infection. Ear at 3 a.m. copay $140. Bank charge. Hotel in Santorini. By the second week, the notebook was already filling up. Camila came by twice that week. The first time she brought food. The second time she brought food, and a dose of reality. Have you seen Valentina's Instagram? She asked. I deleted it. Good decision, she said, then showed me anyway. Photos in Rome. The Colosseum. Fancy restaurants. Wine glasses raised with her friends. Every caption was about finding herself and living authentically. Not one mention of Martina. She's going to regret this, Camila said quietly. Maybe, I said. But I don't care. Camila studied me for a second. You're handling this better than I thought. Because I'm not waiting for her to come back, I said. I'm building a case. Exactly, she nodded. Keep that mindset. One night during the second week, Martina woke up screaming at 2 a.m. She was burning up with fever. No matter what I did, she wouldn't stop crying. I called Camila at 2:30. What's going on? She answered, voice rough with sleep. Martina's really hot. I don't know what to do. Tylenol. Right now. I'm coming. 15 minutes later she showed up in sweatpants and a jacket, hair pulled up in a mess, a medical bag in her hand. She checked Martina's ears with a little flashlight tool. Infection, she confirmed. We're going to urgent care now before it gets worse. At 3 a.m. I drove to the urgent care center with Martina crying in the back seat and Camila following us in her car. We waited 40 minutes. Martina ended up asleep against my chest, sweaty and exhausted. Camila bought me coffee from the vending machine. It tasted horrible. I drank it anyway. You don't have to stay, I told her. Where else would I be at this hour? She said, shrugging. Besides, someone has to make sure this kid doesn't end up in urgent care every week. Antibiotics. Another $140 copay. We walked out close to sunrise. I got home at 5 o'clock. I had to be at work in 3 hours. I laid Martina down and she finally slept. Then I opened my laptop. That Santorini hotel charge wouldn't leave my mind. I went into our shared email and searched flight confirmations. The emails spoke for themselves. September 15th. Flight reservations. Hotel bookings. A full 35-day itinerary. September. It had been planned the whole time. She simply didn't tell me until she was standing at the airport with her suitcase already packed. I screenshot everything. Sent it to my attorney with the subject line, additional evidence. Then I opened the notebook again. Day 11, ear infection. ER 3 a.m. copay $140. Camila help. Valentina no contact about Martina's health. Bank charge $47. Hotel in Santorini. Flight confirmations found in shared email. I closed the notebook carefully. I wasn't improvising. I was preparing. She'd reserved that entire trip back in September, while she was still pregnant. I realized it too late. It wasn't impulse. It wasn't a last-minute breaking point. It was calculated. Planned. She'd always had an exit door ready. I just didn't want to see it. I stared at the ceiling in the quiet apartment, watching the shadows from the lamp move. And in that silence, I understood something with an uncomfortable clarity. The best decision I'd made in all that chaos was telling her it was over. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't begged. I hadn't asked for explanations I didn't need anymore. It happened in one short, cold phone call. That's where it ended. Week 3 started with a call I didn't expect. It was 7:30 p.m. when my phone buzzed on the table. I stared at the name. Valentina. For 2 weeks I'd refused to answer. Every call went to voicemail, not out of cruelty but out of clarity. But that night Martina was already asleep. The apartment was quiet. And I figured having the recording wouldn't hurt. Hi, Sebastian, she said when I answered. Her voice wasn't the same. It sounded lower. Unsteady. Like she was measuring every word. Hi. I miss you both, she said. How's Martina? She's asleep. Oh. Awkward pause. How is she? Fine. Last week she had an ear infection. Nothing serious. Antibiotics. Silence stretched longer than it should have. I didn't know that. I know, I said. I texted you. But you were busy posting photos like nothing else in the world existed. That's not fair, she snapped, defensive. Why are you being so hostile? I'm not making you feel anything, I said. I'm taking care of our daughter. And I'm filing for divorce. Another pause, heavier. Are you serious? Completely. Sebastian, can we fix this? No, you planned this trip while you were pregnant and never said a word. That's not a crisis. That's a strategy. I heard her inhale sharply. You went through my email. Our shared email, I said. The one tied to the bills. That's an invasion of privacy. And abandoning your child isn't? I said. Her breathing sped up, angry, maybe scared. When I get back, we'll talk like adults. No, I said. When you get back, you'll talk to my attorney. I'll be busy with Martina. You can't be serious. I have to go, I said. Martina's waking up. It wasn't true, but she didn't need to know that. I ended the call without waiting for her response. Then I opened the notebook and wrote in firm handwriting. Day 17, Valentina called. Tried to blame me for being hostile. Confirmed divorce. She got upset when I mentioned the email. Call lasted 3 minutes. After that, I opened the bank app. Another withdrawal, $420. Rome. Hotels, restaurants, shopping. I added it up again. Over $4,200 in 3 weeks. I opened a new bank account in my name. The process took 10 minutes. Then I called payroll and changed my direct deposit effective immediately. The joint account would keep paying necessities, rent, utilities, daycare. Nothing else. I wasn't funding massages, luxury dinners, or someone else's self-discovery. I took screenshots of every step, every transaction. Everything went into the evidence folder. I looked at Martina asleep in her crib. She knew nothing about numbers, accounts, or adult choices. And still, for the first time in weeks, I felt calm. 3 days later, I got a message from an unknown number. First, a photo. Valentina sitting next to a man way too close. His hand on her thigh. She was laughing, completely unbothered. Then a text. Thought you should know what she's really doing in Greece. It was Fernanda, one of the women on the trip. The same friend Valentina always talked about behind her back. My jaw tightened, but I wasn't surprised. I took a screenshot and sent it straight to my attorney. Clear evidence of an affair. I opened the notebook again. Day 20, received photo. Clear intimate contact. Sent to attorney. Then I set the phone down and watched Martina playing on the floor. We're going to be okay, I whispered. She smiled at me and kept playing. By day 22, work started getting complicated. Mauricio called me into his office. The yellow warning slip was already on his desk. You've been late a few times, he said, not angry, just tired. I can't keep covering for you. I'm dealing with a divorce, I said plainly. Divorce? He blinked. I thought she was traveling. She's with another man. Mauricio exhaled slowly. 2 weeks, he said. That's all the flexibility I've got left. Understood. That night I called Rodrigo. I need extra work, I told him. Anything. I've got a terrace that needs repairs, he said. Weekends. I'll take it. I worked 6 hours that Saturday. Made $200. That same weekend, Valentina spent 4 times that on dinners and shopping. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. Day 25. She called again, this time on video. I answered, pointing the camera toward Martina. Hi, my love, Valentina said softly. It's mommy. Martina stared at the screen. No reaction. She's grown, Valentina whispered. That happens when you're not around, I said. I miss her. That's what happens when you abandon your child. Silence. Fernanda sent me photos, I added. Her face changed instantly. It's not what it looks like. It doesn't matter, I said. My lawyer has them. Yes, she said quickly. Okay. I ended the call. Martina had already forgotten the screen existed. I opened the notebook again. Day 25, video call. Confrontation about affair. Blocked her number. She wanted to play games. I wasn't playing anymore. My attorney's office was in a small neighborhood strip mall, wedged between a vape shop and a tax service. Nothing fancy but professional enough to inspire confidence. I walked in with my notebook, a folder full of printed bank statements and the photos Fernanda had sent. I wasn't improvising any of this. My attorney looked like she'd seen this story 100 times. Early 50s. Short hair. Reading glasses on a silver chain. She flipped through everything calmly. No shock. No drama. You kept very thorough records, she said. She's still in Greece, I replied. She comes back in 9 days. She closed the notebook and placed it on her desk. Sebastian, she said, I can file for emergency custody today. The judge could grant it before she even lands. What are my chances? She didn't hesitate. Abandonment. Proven infidelity. Reckless spending while you maintain stable care for the child. She tapped the photos lightly. More than good. Especially with the affair. This state still considers that. Do it. The retainer is $2,500. I pulled out the cash. Part of it came from Rodrigo's terrace job. The rest from my last paycheck. I placed it on the desk without hesitation. Done. She counted it precisely. I'll file Monday. The hearing should be Wednesday or Thursday. She paused, then smiled slightly. She's going to lose control when she finds out. Let her. You documented reality, she said coolly. Honestly, this is the cleanest case I've had in weeks. I walked out feeling like I'd just loaded a weapon, and knew exactly where to aim. The hearing was scheduled for Friday. 2 days before Valentina returned to the country. I wore the only decent shirt I owned, freshly ironed. My attorney met me outside the courtroom, calm as ever. Ready? Yes. Answer only what you're asked. Don't volunteer anything. I'll handle the rest. We went in. The courtroom smelled like old wood and tension. The judge was a woman in her early 60s, glasses low on her nose, with the unmistakable look of someone who had zero patience for nonsense. Mr. Sebastian, she said, you are requesting emergency custody of Martina, 13 months old? Correct. Yes, Your Honor. Where is your wife currently? In Greece. Her flight returns Sunday. The judge raised an eyebrow. How long has she been gone? 33 days. Were you informed in advance? I found out when she called me from the airport. She told me I had 3 hours to pick up our daughter from daycare. The judge's expression hardened. My attorney stood. Your Honor, Ms. Valentina abandoned the family to take a pre-planned European vacation, planned even before the child's birth. Mr. Sebastian has documented 33 days of solo parenting while Ms. Valentina spent over $9,000 on personal expenses and maintained an extramarital relationship. She handed over the notebook, the bank statements, and the photos. The judge reviewed everything carefully, page by page. Her jaw tightened with each document. Mr. Sebastian, she asked, what is your employment situation? I'm a shift supervisor at a packaging plant. I've used all my sick days and received a warning for absences, but I'm still employed. Who cares for the child while you work? Daycare during the day. I handle nights, weekends, and all medical appointments. My wife's cousin, Camila, has helped twice a week. The judge looked back at the file. Your wife contacted you 4 times? Yes. 3 unanswered calls for documentation. 1 video call. Martina didn't recognize her. The judge placed the file down. I grant emergency custody to Mr. Sebastian. Full custody effective immediately. My phone buzzed as soon as we walked out. Man, this is going to drive her insane, Mauricio said. That's the point. You need help changing the locks? Already called a locksmith. Cold? He laughed. I like it. I drove home. The locksmith arrived at 2 p.m., charged me $150 to change the locks and reprogram everything. When he finished, I stood there holding 2 new keys. 1 for me. 1 spare for Camila. None for Valentina. Sunday felt different from the moment I woke up. I fed Martina early, dressed her in clean clothes, and placed the emergency custody order neatly inside a folder on the kitchen table. Yellow tabs marked every important page. Valentina's boxes were stacked by the door. At 4:30 p.m. I heard a car stop outside. I looked through the window. Valentina stepped out, tan, rested, hair perfect, dragging a designer suitcase like she just returned from winning something. She climbed the stairs confidently, pulled out her key and slid it into the lock. Nothing. She tried again. Her face shifted from confusion to irritation in seconds. Then she saw me through the glass. Sebastian, she said sharply. Why isn't my key working? I changed the locks. Her face went blank. What? You heard me. Why would you do that? I lifted the folder just enough for her to see the court seal. Her eyes narrowed as she read. You filed for emergency custody. Granted on Friday. Her mouth opened slightly. You can't be serious. I am. This is my daughter. Then you should have acted like her mother instead of sleeping with another man in Greece while I dealt with ear infections at 3 a.m. Her face drained of color. How do you know about Fernanda? I guess guilt makes people honest sometimes. A door across the hall cracked open. A neighbor was watching. Valentina lowered her voice. Sebastian, please. Let me inside. We can talk. There's nothing to talk about. Let me see Martina. Any visits go through my attorney. Her number is in the documents. I spoke calmly on purpose. Every word mattered. Her expression changed again. First disbelief. Then anger. Then something worse. Fear. You filed for custody while I was out of the country, she said loudly. That's manipulation. You left the country after planning a 5-week vacation with your partner, I replied. Without notice. Without coordination. Without concern. She stared at me like she didn't recognize the man standing in front of her. Her hands trembled as she pulled out her phone. I'm calling the police. Go ahead. I didn't move. Didn't argue. Didn't raise my voice. 10 minutes later, a patrol car pulled into the lot. The officer was young, clearly annoyed to be called to a domestic dispute. What's going on here? Valentina spoke first. He changed the locks while I was traveling. I can't enter my own apartment. The officer turned to me. I handed him the folder without saying a word. He read slowly, line by line. His posture changed as he went. When he finished, he looked at Valentina. "Ma'am, this is a valid court order." "That doesn't mean he can lock me out," she said, almost pleading. "It actually does," the officer replied calmly. "You need to contact your attorney. This is a civil matter." Her face collapsed. "You're telling me I can't go inside?" "I'm telling you to leave the property." She grabbed her suitcase angrily and dragged it toward the stairs, nearly tripping. She turned back one last time. "You'll regret this." "I won't," I said quietly. The officer nodded at me and left. I closed the door, locked it. The sound of the bolt sliding into place brought a peace I hadn't felt in months. I carried Valentina's boxes outside and set them on the curb. Inside, Martina sat on the floor playing like nothing in the world had changed. I sat beside her. "Dad's got this," I whispered. She threw a block at me and laughed. And for the first time, my hands weren't shaking. 2 days later, Valentina had a lawyer. In less than 48 hours, she filed an emergency motion to overturn the custody order. She accused me of manipulation, of bad faith, of being controlling and vindictive. She claimed she had permission to travel. She did not mention her partner. That omission was intentional. My attorney called me at work. "We have a hearing Tuesday. What are my chances?" "Very good," she said calmly. "She'll have to explain far too much." The second hearing, same courtroom, same judge. Valentina arrived transformed. Neutral dress, hair pulled back, minimal makeup, everything carefully calculated. The judge entered. We stood. "We are here regarding Mrs. Valentina's motion to reverse the emergency custody order." Her lawyer spoke first, confident and rehearsed. "Your Honor, my client is a devoted mother who needed a break for mental health reasons." My attorney stood immediately. The decision was based on documented abandonment, extramarital conduct, and financial irresponsibility. She placed the photos from Fernanda on the table. The room went silent. "Are these images authentic?" the judge asked. Valentina hesitated. "Yes." "When did you inform your husband of this trip?" the judge asked. Valentina swallowed. "The morning I left, from the airport." The judge made a note. My attorney followed with bank statements, call logs, and my notebook. 4 calls in 5 weeks. Over $9,000 in personal expenses. Complete absence during medical emergencies. The judge reviewed everything carefully. Then she looked up. "The motion is denied. Temporary custody remains with the father." Valentina's face cracked. Outside the courthouse, she sat on the steps. "I never thought you'd do this," she said quietly. "I didn't do anything," I replied. "I just stopped covering for you." I walked away. I had Martina. I had custody. I had proof. And she had exactly what she asked for from the beginning. Freedom. Martina's birthday. Martina turned 19 months that day. I kept it simple. A small gathering. Close people. Real laughter. Rodrigo came with food. Camila stopped by between shifts with a ridiculously large stuffed animal. Mauricio joked that I finally looked like someone who had his life together. The apartment filled naturally. And Daniela was there. The ER nurse who once covered Camila's shift during a fever emergency. We'd been seeing each other 4 weeks. No pressure. No rush. Martina toddled over and grabbed Daniela's leg. "Up," she demanded. Daniela didn't hesitate. She picked her up like it was instinct. Camila caught my eye from across the room. "That look said everything. Don't ruin this." I had no intention of doing so. The final confrontation, then the knock came. Not gentle. Insistent. I opened the door. Valentina stood there. Thinner. Exhausted. Mascara streaked under her eyes. "I heard it's Martina's birthday," she said. "I wanted to see her." "Your visit is Tuesday," I replied. "Today isn't Tuesday." She looked past me. Saw the cake. The people. Saw Martina in Daniela's arms. "Who is she?" Valentina snapped. "That's none of your business." "You're letting a stranger hold my daughter?" "Daniela isn't a stranger. And Martina seems very comfortable." Valentina's voice rose. "You replaced me already?" I laughed once. Dry. "You replaced yourself when you boarded that plane." Daniela stepped closer, calm, protective. Valentina broke. "I made a mistake," she cried. "I was scared. I ruined everything." "You made choices," I said evenly. "Now you're living with them." Then she said it. The thing you can never unsay. "This is her fault," she sobbed, pointing at Martina. If I hadn't gotten pregnant, none of this would have happened. Silence crashed through the apartment. Daniela turned, shielding Martina instantly. I stepped forward. Say that again. Valentina collapsed. I gave up my body, my life. I wasn't ready to be a mother. And that, I said quietly, is why you don't get custody. She tried to approach. I stepped back. Leave. Follow your supervised visits. That's it. Rodrigo appeared behind me without being asked. It's time to go. Valentina looked around at everything she'd lost. Then she left. The end that matters. After the door closed, the apartment slowly returned to life. Music resumed. Laughter returned. Martina played on the floor, unbothered. I picked her up. She rested her head on my shoulder. Come. Sit. And I understood something clearly. Adults carry the weight of broken scenes. Children live in the present. Nothing had broken for her. The chaos stayed outside the door. This wasn't a loud victory. It wasn't revenge. It was stability. And that was enough.